Hey everybody, it's Kenya, and this is the Thank You for Saying No podcast, where we find meaning in life's unexpected turns. Zev Taublieb, welcome to the Thank You for Saying No podcast.
Thank you for saying yes. That was so kind of you. I am used to being told no most of the time, so
Perfect.
It's nice for it to change.
You're perfect for the show.
Thank you.
We have pickles upon request.
I did request them, and I'm so glad you also said yes to the pickles.
Pickles in a podcast. For those who don't know Zev, he is a soccer player who has a really inspiring story and a big passion for the game that led him to play all over the world. You've been playing for 8 years with, I can do this off memory. Des Moines Menace. Is it Menaces? Would it be Menaces?
We were Menaces, to be fair, while
Okay.
we were playing.
Des Moines Menace.
But it was Des Moines Menace.
Okay.
I was the only Menace.
You were the only Menace. Okay, Des Moines Menace. I'm cheating here. Seattle Sounders, Sacramento Republic, Wilmington Hammerheads, Charlotte Independence, Varberg Boys.
Very good. The Swedes will be very proud of you.
Thank you. And Oat Vitaberry.
Wow. They'll love you for that,
Thank you.
for sure.
And Richmond Kickers.
You've signed yourself a contract in Sweden. Congratulations. Congratulations.
So, and did you play in Israel before?
There was a stint in Israel. We can get into that. There were lots of no's during that process.
Okay.
It was complicated.
Did I name one of those teams?
You didn't, but only because I think on what I sent you,
Okay.
it was like it happened, but kind of not really because I was
Okay.
told no
We'll get
after
into
being
it.
told yes. So
Cool.
yeah, it's a good part of the story.
Okay. And then you have your own consulting business.
I do.
Mhm.
I can dive a tiny bit. I'm known as the college soccer guy on
Right.
TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
I have 120,000 followers as of today, actually.
Congrats.
And I help high school athletes play college sports.
Very cool. And then you just bought a team or a club.
I did. Yes, I
This-
did have the opportunity based off of my history as a soccer player in the community to become a owner of a team in Santa Monica. And it is called the UPSL Surf. And I am now the owner alongside my brother. And we're very excited to put that together. Lots of no's on that journey as well.
That's awesome. So something that really stood out to me when I first learned of your story is how you didn't let being no told early on stop you from keep trying to play professionally. And like you took no's as meaning like it's time to get to work.
You really said it well there in the sense our household motto, and I always joke, our household was like a superhero film in the sense that in our house, it felt like we always had a weighted vest on in terms of the demand that was there. So whenever we left the house, we'd be like, oh my gosh, life is so much easier. But in our house, there was you have to do this. Otherwise get out.
Yeah.
And that mentality was this. No, literally, this is what my father would tell us all the time. No means get to work.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally what it meant. And when I talk to my students now who are told no on a regular basis in the recruiting process and was throughout my own career, no literally just meant get to work. And from that perspective, that's where it all started. So when you actually talked to me about the opportunity and you would use the word no in your podcast, I was like, finally, somebody that gets the power of the no.
Yeah.
And so it's very cool to be here.
That's awesome. So today we're going to talk about obviously some of your no's along the way, your unexpected turns, and some of the lessons you learned throughout your soccer journey. But I want to start with like how you got into soccer. So how old were you when you started? Like how'd you get into it?
You had asked me at the beginning of the podcast if this was going to be good. So this is going to be pretty good right now. So at the beginning, initially, I fell in love with just running constantly, like constantly running. I couldn't stop moving. At least
it like
was told to me.
therapeutic for you?
Perhaps it was therapeutic. I think my parents both worked a tremendous amount. So I just was constantly running. I think normally they would call it ADHD.
Oh.
But, I was just a kid and I just wanted to move. And so we tried other sports, but it didn't really work.
Mm-hmm.
So soccer, I fell in love with it pretty early. Like at 4, I was playing. But by 8 years old, I had written down on a Post-it note that I wanted to be a professional soccer player and that I wanted to be in the World Cup and I wanted to change lives through soccer. That was like at 8. That was what I decided.
Yeah.
And I come from a pretty high-strung family. So they were like, yeah, that's what you should do. Like, get to work. You're late. You're 8. You're 8. Why didn't you start earlier? So they were very supportive, but they were like, yeah, let's go. Let's get to work. So I was getting to work in regards to what would that mean? What does that mean to be a pro soccer player at 8 in the United States? My father was a surfer. My mother was a dancer. They knew nothing about kicking soccer balls.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I did was I was like, look, as an 8-year-old, I was like, look, if I touch the ball more than anyone else, I'll be the best.
Yeah.
So I literally, and I'm not really exaggerating, unless you want this to turn into a comedy show, then I can pretend I am. But basically, I took the ball everywhere. In the shower, in the bed, to temple, to church, to everything. I just took it everywhere.
You went to
school.
temple and church?
Actually, church came later.
Okay.
But temple, I did go to temple at the beginning. And it was like constantly with me everywhere. And I have one silly story. I remember once I was playing with it at recess at school, and I would like dribble it into the classroom, and of course the teacher would be like, you have to put the ball away, and then I'd be in class, like tapping it the whole time. And once at recess we were playing, and it ended up in a classroom, and it was Mr. Perry. I remember his face so clearly. He was Mr. Perry. He was the most scary teacher, and he comes outside with the ball, and he was at the science class, so he had tools, and he goes, pop.
He popped the ball.
Popped the ball.
Oh my god!
And I was in tears.
Why would he do that?
I know, what?
So
high school, ridiculous. I was so sad. Luckily, one of the seniors was in the class, and he was like, "Zev, don't worry, you're going to be a great soccer player one day." And I was like, "Oh, that means a lot to me." So I was addicted to playing.
Yeah.
And then there came the next pieces of like, what does that mean? Like, okay, so you're addicted. Like, you can't just being good is not it. And that was when the no's started happening.
Yeah.
And in the fact, the no's, when you're young, they're like multiplied. It's like difficult, but that's how I got started playing soccer.
That's awesome. And when did you realize like it was within your grasp to play professionally?
Definitely never. I was told no till it occurred.
Yeah.
And that will develop some of this story, which is basically initially I was like, I want to play soccer. And in the youth soccer world, how it works is there's different levels, tiers within youth soccer. And if you don't meet certain tiers by a certain age, it just becomes more and more difficult.
Yeah.
And soccer's grown a lot since then, and it's going to keep growing. And at the time, there were pro soccer teams like the MLS, which is like the NBA of soccer in America. I'm glad you know.
Yeah.
And so it was like, to get to that point, you didn't really know what to do other than college soccer was kind of the only way you could do it unless you were turning pro as a teenager. And I was told no at 8 years old. I was told like, you're going to be on the AYSO B team. Like that's where it started, B team. Then it was like, okay.
Versus like A being the best team?
Yeah, A being the best team. And so I was on the B team. And then the B team was like, hey, we're starting another team. You can be the last player on that team if you want to not play. And I was like, yes, if it's the best team out there, I'll go to that team.
Yeah.
So I said, yes, train, move up to the next level. Nope, you're not good enough. You can be the last player if you want. Boom, 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 try again. And I did that basically for 7 years.
Yeah.
And then my junior year of high school, I played JV soccer. I was, as a junior, I was playing JV. And so I was obviously told no again.
Yeah.
And then there was a turning point when I was 14. I met a mentor, and his name was Dan Metcalf. And he was like, look, I know everyone's telling you no, but I'm going to tell you yes, because I really can feel your passion and how badly you want this. And I think that's part of the beauty, going back to the no.
Yeah.
I want to tell you a quick story.
Okay, I have a story after.
Oh, brilliant. So there's a proverb that basically goes like this. So this gentleman goes, he's a farmer, and one day 2 horses come into his farm. And the people from the town come and they go, isn't this great? Like, you've got 2 horses. And he goes, I don't know if it's good or bad yet. His son rides the horse, breaks his back, and is injured because of 2 horses. The town come again. They go, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Bad luck. Like, the horses broke your son's back. And he goes, I don't know if it's good or bad luck. Bad luck. Next week, he goes, the army comes and says, we're taking all able-bodied men to the army. And his son has broken his back, so he can't go to the army. So they come again. All of the townspeople, they go, you're so lucky. Your son was hurt, so he didn't have to go to the army. And he goes, I don't know if it was good or bad luck. And that concept, if you can have that in your brain, then all of a sudden you really go, wow, maybe these no's are opportunities, another door. And so in this case, the no's over and over again led me to this coach. And that coach is really what jump-started really what it meant, not just to like have a passion for it, but what do I do to actually make it happen? And he would always tell me, why not you? And that was a big piece of it.
So the proverb is like, falling off the horse could be a good thing.
Exactly. Or anything.
Yeah. If you fall, it could be like, sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
No, you're right. Yeah.
I'm serious.
Falling can be good. I fell many times. And I think what I encourage my students now is I go, you could fall like this. So you're like bracing yourself for the fall because you know it's going to be miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And I really tell people, like, you got to fall like
forward.
this. Like, fall forward, but fall belly flop. Like, hit it hard.
Yeah.
Because you'll learn a lot more that way. It will hurt a lot more. And it'll suck. But you'll learn a lot more. Whereas if you kind of protect yourself from the failure and you go, well, I'm going to try 80%. That way I don't fail as hard. I go, I want to see red on your belly when you get out of that pool.
Yeah. So that actually kind of relates to my story that I had. So, when I was in my first year of law school, like it was my first milestone in my legal journey. It was my first year of law school. I was trying to apply for a summer job and I had applied to like so many places, probably like 50 or so places. I only interviewed with a couple firms. And then summer was approaching. Like I hadn't heard back from anybody. I was like, oh my God, like I was starting to get really stressed out, right? Like long story short, I get a call like probably a week before summer starts. Like I'm fucking pushing it to the cut. A week before summer starts, and it's the Department of Justice Environmental Division, and they offered me a summer position. And I was like, I just needed one yes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like all in retrospect, all of those no's like made sense because something else was out there for me that I just hadn't found yet. And that yes opened up a lot of doors later in law school. So all of those no's didn't even matter anymore, even though they felt so big in the moment. So that actually leads me to my next question, which what no's in your career actually opened other doors?
Okay, that's great. I was going to ask you, I'll answer that happily. But what kept you going having been told no and over again? Because even, with my case, it was, it's no fun being told no. It's easy to say, oh, there's another door over here and you should be so happy, but you're not really happy about it. You wish they had told you yes.
Yeah.
Did you have a model that helped you?
I had a passion for wanting to work in the environment, and I'm an environmental attorney now. But it was a challenge every step of the way because it's a very competitive market and there's not like a lot of jobs for the amount of people applying. Like throughout the whole thing, like summer internships, externships, like jobs, real attorney jobs, all of it. And so I just I knew that's what I wanted to do. I think when I was young, I always had this affinity for the environment and protecting it. So I just knew I'm going to keep trying until something fits. And so my mindset, in law school, was very much I'm being told no because there's something else out there for me. And so that sort of mantra kept playing in my mind when I got rejection after rejection. I was like, there's something else out there and I'm going to find it soon.
Amazing. I'll noted. Thank you. That's very helpful. And what no's would have helped me lead to another door?
No, what no's did help me. I mean, yeah, actually did.
Is initially, I would say the first one was in club soccer where they're like, no, you're too short. That was classic. And that was okay, well, I mean, I don't know what you want me to do about that. So I just have to keep going. So that's easy one. Then the second one, the one that first came to mind was I had the opportunity to go to England and live there when I was 14. And they told me right away. Playing soccer. And they told me, look, we're telling you today that you're not going to play for our team. Mm-hmm. And it's called Fulham, which is in the soccer community a big deal, kind of like the Clippers youth team. Imagine. Okay. So it was look, you're not going to play for us pretty much ever, but we really like you as a player. We love your personality. So come every single year. And if things happen in your own country that gives you the opportunity for us to say yes, then maybe we'll let that happen. And so one of the no's I got was when I turned 17, I was trying to make everything happen so I could sign abroad. They're like, look, unless you play for your national team and you have what's called 70% of the tribunal board, which is basically the ability to prove to a country that you deserve a work permit, we're not going to sign you abroad. And that no, to this day, is how I help my students to the utmost degree, because a lot of them go, look, I really want to go pro. And I say, do you have a European passport? And they say no. That no helps us go, hey, what about college soccer? What about a new direction that we can take? So for me, that's what it did. That no was wow, so I really can't play in England. That's kind of my dream. And they're like, you can, but you have to, be one of the best players in the country. And even if I felt I was the best, you have to be considered the best. So you have to be called up to the Olympic team type of thing. And I wasn't being called. So it was okay, so should I quit? And I was like, heck no, I'm not going to quit. So what do I do? And so then I went back and figured out, look, college is the model. If I play college soccer, I'll still be able to go pro. And that was the first no that was thank God that happened.
Yeah, because that led you to play college soccer.
It led me to play college soccer, which inevitably led me to play pro soccer. And I was not ready to play pro at 17.
Yeah.
Just wasn't ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
And those 4 years helped me develop. So I was ready. And then I had an amazing coach, and I've lived across the world. And then now what I do in addition to playing pro soccer is I literally have helped this year alone, like hundreds of kids get an education, which is amazing.
Like through soccer.
Through soccer.
Awesome.
And I really, I'm so grateful to that.
Yeah. So I think like, I don't know a lot about sports, admittedly, but I do think sports, like most things in life, so I'm trying to parallel it to my own experience, but it's like life is like half skill, like half whatever you're trying to do, whatever your skill is, and half mental, like being able to mentally handle the challenges that you're going to go through. So what challenges did you face when you were first trying to play professionally?
The first one was right after college. The way you go pro in the traditional model is you get drafted. So they go, you're the best. You're so good in college, so now you get drafted. Mm-hmm. And I was told, no, you're not going to get drafted. So then you go, what do? So you go to open tryouts. And that's a unique opportunity that you're able to do in the United States, where you're able to go to an open tryout. Mm-hmm. That doesn't exist anywhere else really in the world.
Yeah.
So I must have gone to 15 open tryouts, and I got told no every single time.
Yeah.
And going back to your point, which is why I was asking, how did you deal with those no's? And I think you hit the nail on the head, which reminded me, because I was like, how did I deal with it? It was a lot of no's.
Yeah.
And I just loved so many no's. Is your passion is really like, I just love this so much. Mm-hmm. I love this so much. I want this so badly. I'm going to keep doing it until I can't. I'm just going to keep going. So in my case, the no's eventually led to me trying out. So the most challenging part was afterwards. I really wanted to go pro, and I just kept going to open tryouts. And I wasn't like, I did very well in college, but not like traditional drafted number one or anything like that. It was, no again. And then I was at a tryout near my hometown, and there was a coach who...
Where is your hometown?
I'm from Malibu, California.
Nice.
And this tournament or this game was in Ventura.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, look, Zev, we like you. We'd like to see you again. And I was like, great, thank goodness they like me, because my groin is killing me. And so then I played in a game. And funny, which I love to tell, they're definitely not listening, but if you are listening, then guess what? I made it. But which is basically, I wanted to go to UCSB, was one of the schools, and I went to their ID camp as a high schooler, and I got the MVP of the camp twice.
Wow. And
they never recruited me.
Oh.
They were never even coming close to recruiting me.
Okay.
Basically, they were like, yeah, you're the best one at the camp, but like, we don't want you.
Oh.
And now that I didn't know that was a thing, I figured if I'm the best one here, then I'm right.
Uh-huh.
But they said no twice. And then in order to earn my pro contract, we played against them, and I scored and I got an assist against them. And nice. I was like, that felt really good. And then I tore my groin right after that. So they were like the team. So I said to myself, because when you go to tryouts, it's really aggressive on you, because you just play games over and over.
Yeah. So
I remember walking up to the hotel room. It was right by C Street, famous surf spot. And I was looking at the waves, and I was like, this is it. He's either going to tell me yes or no. And I've got, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to wait a year or until the tryouts are again.
Yeah.
And I remember he took me into the room, and he didn't really say yes. Mm-hmm. He basically just said, I don't really know what to do with you. And I said, I'll see you Monday. And that was it.
And then you're on.
And I was on the team.
And then you're on the team.
Then I signed the contract, and that was my first contract.
So how did you deal with was it mentally challenging on you when you kept getting all of those no's?
Yeah, it was. I think what you mentioned earlier was like, you love it so much, and that way now I can say this. Didn't feel at the time. Like, the journey has been amazing.
Yeah.
The people I've met, the experience I've had, just like, wow. And as an adult now, say for my kids one day, I'd be like, look, go for your goals. If you make it, or whatever that term of make it is, you're gonna have this amazing thing, and you're lucky that you have a passion. Most people, and it's not even unfortunate, but you, relatively young, knew what you wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I knew what I wanted to do very young, and so there was a driving force. Like, the whole time, there was no question of what else is there. It was only that. And so it was difficult, for sure, in regards to being told no over and over. But it wasn't like it was lucky. I guess they say that you have to love it as bad as you want to breathe. So, I really wanted it. And so you just kept going.
You just kept trying again.
Yeah.
So are you the kind of person that is very hard on yourself? Like, are you coachable? Or are you like... So for me, I think I'm my toughest critic. So when I get criticized out in the profession or just in the real world, I'm like, it doesn't sting as much because I'm already the harshest critic there is out there. Is that, can you relate to that, or how are you?
I definitely would say I'm harsh on myself, but in my world, which might be similar to yours, my life is determined by somebody else.
Yeah.
So when they criticize me, it didn't feel very good. And often in our world, if you're getting criticized, it means one of two things. Either the coach loves you and they're criticizing you because they care about you and they want you to do better, or they hate you and they want you to get the heck out. Mm-hmm. And I had one opportunity. I just signed for my first pro contract. The first coach that brought me in really liked me. He ended up leaving. New coach came in. Within 3 days, he was like, we don't want you around anymore. Like, get out. And I was under contract, so you can't just kick me out. So they have to buy me out. And I was like, I want to earn my spot. I want to prove it to you, da-da-da. And he was like, no, I won't let you even do that.
Wow.
So that didn't feel good.
No.
And they was criticized. You know, it was like, you're not dynamic enough, which is a terrible way to like criticize somebody because it's like, just tell me you don't think I'm good enough, dynamic enough. What does that mean? What do you want me to do more of? I will try if you want me to. So to answer your question, I would say I am harsh on myself, but mainly just because I like wanting it better. Yeah. But I didn't love getting criticized by other coaches all that much. Which is probably why I bought a team, so now nobody can.
I do think it's tough, like it's growing pains. But I think at the end of the day, ultimately, like the only way to grow is to like reflect. And sometimes for me, I need other people to point out things to me.
Well said. And I think it's particularly, I would say it's shifted a lot. And I think for the better. Not that, so at the beginning, I took everything like a sponge. And they have this in the sports world. If you take all the criticism in, you'll just be feeling like you're getting punched constantly. You know, just like, because you can always get better. And some of the best players, you know, I think with their headspace go like, look, I hear what the coach said. I'm going to listen to what he said, but I think I'm really good. And that balance of like, I'm harsh on myself, but I think I'm really good is difficult and something that I strive for now as a player. And I try and instill in my young players now. And that's important to me. So it's a balance, per usual.
Okay. And then how about like when we're winning, it's easy to be like, oh, I got this. This is it. Like I'm made for this. Right. But like when you lose a few games or you have like a lot of tough days, like soccer days in a row or like a tough weeks or months, I don't know what it's like. Honestly, I have no idea. But like, how do you overcome those tough times? So not when you're getting told no necessarily, but when you're like you keep fumbling.
I think obviously it goes back to the passion bit. So you really like it. But ultimately, I really struggled with it. And I ended up hiring a sports psychologist. And they gave us some tools. One of which is redefining the word no. So that's helpful. So you go, you know, another door opens type of thing. So that mantra you talked about, mantra could be really helpful. So my mantra was more like, why not you? Because I really wanted to play in Europe. That was like everyone's dream. And everyone kind of was like, not possible.
Did you play in Europe or any of those?
Sweden.
Okay.
Yeah. So then I did eventually get to there.
Nice.
And I was like, really, that's what I want. So why not you? Why not you? Why not you get told no, but why not you? And then the other thing, and we call this in the soccer world, you call it a game model. I call it like a pro model in my case. So I had a set of things that I was going to do in my own control. And I was like, look, if I do these things, sleep, eat well, exercise this much, do these things, then I'm okay with the outcome because I can't control it. It's not really in my control. And by having this model, whenever I'd be like, shoot, I'm on the bench, which isn't really in my control, I would refer back to my model and go, at training, did I try and play it to the striker? Because that was my model today. Did I do that? And if I didn't, then I would beat myself up and go, you know, I said I would do it and I didn't do it.
Yeah.
But if I did it and I messed up or I got put on the bench, I would say, did I go out to do what I tried to do today? I did. Well, that's great. That means I did my part. And it was not easy. It sounds like a perfect model. But you, especially in sport, you're desperate for the coach to like you. Because he controls or she controls or they control whatever exactly what you want. They control it all. And as a young man in particular, and you're a young woman, you're desperate to make sure you like them. And how do you go like, how do you get benched and go, you know what, I'm still a baller? It's difficult. Yeah. It's difficult, especially when you're a young person. You accumulate whatever the coach says with correct. As you've gotten older, as I've gotten older, you go, look, like at the pro level, for example, everyone on the bench is very good. Why one starts over another is nuance. It's not better or worse at that level. But when you're young, that's what you're told. You're on the bench, you must be worse than that guy. And as I've gotten older, look, a great example. I was coaching a high school team. And the head coach is amazing. He's better than me. Just like great coach.
Mm-hmm.
But we looked at the lineup once and I was like, and this is high school soccer. Okay. So theoretically low level.
Mm-hmm.
I would have picked a completely different 11 people than he would have. How could you say that at high school level? Wouldn't you pick the best players? Wouldn't it be obvious? And that's when it really hit me like, wow, if it's subjective at that level, when theoretically they all suck or they're all great, but within a reason, then, oh my gosh, at the pro level, it's like the difference is it's like this. So that really helped me because I was like, wow, just because I'm on the bench doesn't mean I'm bad. And that was a great headspace for me. And that was huge.
That's interesting. So I hear you like, you set your own intentions that you were going to make, that you're going to meet. And that's a good one. Like setting your own intentions, like achievable goals for yourself. And I heard like people all have different perspectives on what they think is great. And that is like really interesting. And that's something I've learned a lot, just not just in the legal profession, but just in life in general. Like, and that's fine. Like, people can like different things and, like, think different things are great. And, like, my perception of great is, like, how I live my life. And I just respect that other people's perception is how they live their life. It's hard when you're, like, kind of succumb to the decision maker. But, like, but it's an interesting outlook for sure. Okay. When did you realize you needed to have, or did you ever realize you needed to have good support around you to succeed?
I think I definitely denied it for most of my life. I was like, it's all about me. I got to do better. I got to do this. And then injuries was a classic where you're like, oh my gosh, now I'm not playing soccer. So then I need a good doctor. I need a good physical therapist. And then when you're young, you're like, mom and dad, do your job. Like, be my mom, be my dad. But then you very quickly learn, you know, how lucky you are that they're your mom and dad, and that I have both my mom and dad. Yeah. And in my case, I have two brothers that I'm very close with. So on top of all those things, I was like, wow, it takes a village. And that's really when it really was like, wow, you really do need everybody. And this is different than your profession. Two things can stop you from playing soccer: the coach and the physical part. Like, there's, you know, if I'm not able to run, I don't get to play. Yeah. And so when you're young in particular, you don't understand the concept of an injury, like when you're 12 or 13. And I had my first knee injury when I was 13. And it was like, what? Like, why do I have to rest? And the doctor would be like, you'll be better in a month. A month for a 13-year-old is miserable. Yeah. So you're like, you're still playing kind of, you're like hobbling because you're like, it doesn't really hurt. Oh, that one hurt, but not bad. And then you don't rest and then it takes forever. Yeah. And all of a sudden you're looking at longer than that. So, and I've had injuries in my career. And that was when I was like, look, I need support. Because like when you're that young and you really want something, you know, you have bad thoughts. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't like where I'm at right now. Luckily, as you get older, you get perspective. But that was when I realized like, wow, it's really great to have people around me. Yeah.
I don't think I could have such a like positive mindset through the no moments unless if it wasn't for my friends. And actually my friends inspired this podcast. Aww. Because my friends are just like so fucking resilient and just like badass. So they like inspired this whole thing.
That's really cool. That's awesome.
When you were told no by your coaches or your teams or whatever it was, what was the next action that you took? Like, you talk about being no means get to work. Like, what does that actually look like for you?
So it kind of goes back to the game model or the life model or the pro model, which was like,
it's called game model.
In the pro world, your coaches will come to you, a good coach, and will say, here's the game model, meaning this is how we're going to play every game, kind of no matter what. Okay. These pieces. So even if, say, we're going to defend, the game model wouldn't change. Okay. Now, we may be slightly farther back on our side of the field, but the game model, which was like how we were going to score or how we would pass to each other, never changed. It always was the same.
What if people knew your game?
It's a good question. Ultimately, soccer's not that complicated, okay? Everybody's passing to each other, so it's not like it's not that hard to figure out. Okay. But even if they knew the game model, quote unquote, you might lose. That could happen. Yeah. We might, that definitely could happen. But there were certain things with the game model that were never changed. So, for example, how you treat your teammates. That you're positive. That's a game model. You don't change that. So or it'd be like, get it to that player. That might change per game, but game model aspects would be like, in our case, in soccer terms, it was like get to the D zone, which was like the danger zone, which is like on the outside of the goal.
Oh my God.
That's like where you go, no matter what. That was and the other teams could know the model and it wouldn't matter because we were so good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So in life, I think it's important to have game models where it's like, no matter what happens, it doesn't change.
Yeah.
So can you repeat the question? I think I was.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Let me think. When you were told no by those teams, what was the next action you took? Like,
what I would do is I would go back to my game model and I would be like, what's the game model? Okay, I said, and this goes to the nuance where it's like in soccer in particular, it wouldn't just be about getting better on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like genuinely, that's what everybody does.
Yeah.
If you don't do what's on the field, get the heck out of here.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do outside of it? Emails, calling, showing up, finding out what the coach's kids' names were, buy them a skateboard, whatever. Like, how would you figure it out in order to get your chance?
Yeah.
And so that was what I would do, is whenever I was told no, I'd go back to the game model. And you have to change the model because you improve, you get better at things. But, luckily when I spent my time abroad in England, they had the perfect one. How many times a day to train? How many times to eat? How much water to drink? They had the exact model that literally produced the best in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I copied it. Yeah. I just did everything that said. So that's how I dealt with the no's over and over.
Yeah.
I was like, great, thank you so much. I'll go back to my model now.
Yeah.
And, I didn't know exactly what it was. So I may have to ask an expert and say, hey, expert, this is what's just happened in my life. What do I do next? And that was the, what do I do next? What do I do next? And I think, that's what I would say. That's
a good one. I think, so in my life, the experts are like mentors or people who know the path that I want to walk. And, that's interesting. So your model changes, like you kind of adapt your model if it's not working.
Yes, I would say you adapt your model if it's not working, particularly to figure out what did. And to do that, you would find out from the experts. Like in my case, what I was doing early on, strategically speaking, in college, if you want to get drafted, you're better off graduating a semester early because from college.
Oh, okay.
Because the draft is in January and you don't normally graduate in January.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you may not get your degree. And my parents weren't going to have that. So they wouldn't have let me play it.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed their financial help.
Yeah.
So I took summer school and I would ask the pros. I would be like, hey, what did you struggle with? How did you get help?
Yeah.
What did you need?
Mm-hmm.
And I get a lot of messages now. And what frustrates me with those messages, so if you're listening, just kidding, is like, they'll be like, can you give me some tips? That's nonsense. Like, that's not how you approach somebody. You have to be like, show me that you've done your research.
Mm-hmm.
Ask me a clear question that's well written, organized,
yeah,
has a purpose to it. And I love helping people that show passion. I will go to the ends of the earth for those people. But the ones that just want information, I don't feel good about.
Yeah.
I don't feel like they really are going to listen to what I'm going to say. So I don't want to waste my time.
Yeah. I think half of it is like trial and error is what it's sounding like. And that's my experience just with everything I've ever done. Like,
yeah. I'm a big believer, which is like different to other people, but I'm a big believer in quantity over quality. I'm the opposite.
You're the opposite.
I'm the opposite of most people. I think the more the better. And over time, it becomes quality.
That's interesting. Yeah. I did a lot of networking throughout law school. Again, like people who had the path I wanted to take. And I would ask them, like, how did you get to where you are? Like, because there's lots of different paths to get to the same spot. And so I was always asking people, like, how did you get to where you are? Like, what did you do? Or, like, sometimes I'd be like, this is what I'm doing. Like, where's the error? Like, where am I going wrong? Like, why isn't this working? Or, like, I would change my game model by, like, if I applied to a job and the cover letter didn't hit, then I'd be like, let me try this way. Or let me try that way. Or let me try a story. Or, you know what I mean? It's like just trying different things until something clicked.
In my world, like, there's a bonus is I could go like show off what I do on the field.
Mm-hmm.
How would you impress people? Like
writing samples.
Writing samples. Very exciting.
Yeah.
No highlight videos.
No highlight videos.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you mentioned injuries. And how did your injuries set you back and how did you overcome them?
Now I would say they set me forward at the time though. At the time though, one, you lose the opportunity to play. So like then your stock goes down a little bit. So in my case, I had a number of like injuries with my groin, some muscle stuff, but the big one happened a couple years ago where I tore my ACL, which really, ouch. It was very painful. But look, 1 out of 7 athletes tear their ACL, so it's like pretty common.
Yeah,
you're pretty lucky if you haven't. So, but at the time when I did it, I had just come off another fractured foot. So I was like, I'm fit, I'm healthy. I just come off a fractured foot. And then I tore my ACL like pretty early on. So at that point, it'd become like a 3-year ordeal by the time I got back, or 2.5. And then I had to get a second surgery done on my knee, which doesn't normally happen. But I was part of the 2% that the doctor who put the screw in. No, this was the unlucky 2% because I had to get another surgery done.
Oh my God.
And normally for ACLs, you get one surgery, you're good. But I had to get 2.
Oh.
And it was so painful. Oh my gosh, it was so painful. Just like, because there was a large, like 3 or 6 months where nobody knew what was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
My knee, I was just in so much pain. So.
Is it better now?
I wouldn't know the difference. I want to show you. I'm just kidding. No. And now you wouldn't know the difference, and so that makes me happy. But the injuries played a big role, and I will say this: every single injury I have had has led me to my, I'll call them wackadoodle and brilliant ideas.
Nice.
I started 2 businesses when I was injured. One of them was a complete failure.
Nice.
And was told no. The other one is what I'm also doing now in addition. It's led to me owning this team. It's led to me with my followers. I wouldn't have my followers if I didn't get injured because I was obsessed with playing.
Oh, wow.
And that's how that shifted.
What was your other business?
I started I was selling a yoga vest. I created a product. And the purpose of the yoga vest was during COVID, yoga teachers couldn't touch you anymore. So the concept was we would create a vest that during yin yoga, which is like the stretchy part, they could place a weighted vest on your back to act as an assisted stretch. And it would feel delicious. And when I started doing it initially, I was injured with my ACL and I really wanted to get like flexible faster. And one of the ways you do that, which isn't quite perfect, but it's the way I did it, was you put weights on your muscles and make them stretch harder, basically. And there's really no safe way to do it. I used to take a weighted plate, like a 10-pound plate, like stick it on my back and go into child's pose.
Oh my God.
And then it would smack you in the head and you die.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
Why don't I come up with a better idea? That's what I did. And it was while I was injured because I had like more time and I was thinking.
Yeah.
So that's how that started. And then I started posting about my injury, and then I started going, I like posting, and I want to help people. How can I help people while I'm injured? And all those injuries have led to something in regards to something amazing. Even at the moment right now, I strained my hamstring a tiny bit, nothing serious, but it's led to me being open-minded to come talk to you. And like otherwise once I'm playing soccer, I get pretty tunneled vision. Yeah. So it's always, I don't wish for it to happen, but when it does, good things tend to happen.
You make the best of it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Was there ever a time you wanted to give up?
I remember one time, I had been a pro at this point for about 3 years. And what happened was I was at a team called Sacramento. I was there at Sacramento. And then after Sacramento, I went to, the new coach came in, I got traded. Ended up in Wilmington, North Carolina, which I loved, by the way. But it was, that's why you asked why I went to church. That's when I went to church. Oh, okay. Because I was trying to be converted every other day.
Oh, nice. Did you?
I did not convert, but I got a lot of free dinners. And they were really nice to me, like everywhere I went. So I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
They treated me better than my own community. Just kidding. So it was really fun, actually, being like, hey, you should come over here and you should hang out with us. And then like Jesus a little bit and then hang out with us. So I had a good time. Cool. Anyways, the team was awesome. And then the team folded. They like ran out of money and that was it. And then I ended up in like a no man's place. And I was like, look, I don't want to stop. Like, I don't know what to do. And you don't make great money at this level, $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month. And I was like, what should I do? Like, I don't want to stop. I don't know what to do. And what happened in one of the games when I was in North Carolina is I was playing against this player. And in the middle of the game, he had already scored 2 goals on us. So it was really good. Okay. And we were both playing center mid for the opposing teams. So I was kicking him and he was kicking me. And I was like, this guy's really good. Why is he here? Like, he's better than all of us. Why is he at this level? Yeah. And then in the middle of the game, he turns to his coach who's yelling directions. He goes, can I swear on here?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Shut the fuck up. You're an idiot. And he's a player.
To his coach.
And everybody stopped. Like, the ref was like, do I stop the game? The coach was like, what the hell? And he was the captain. So the coach had picked him to be the leader. Okay. And then just told him to fuck off. Yeah. So everyone was like, what? Then the game ended. We tied 2-2. And I went up to him after the game. I'm like, you're so good. I mean, that part was weird.
Yeah.
But like, you're really good. What's your deal?
Mm-hmm.
And he had actually went to Stanford. He was a baller, played for the youth national team, and played MLS. And he was kind of going back to his hometown and playing at that club until moving on to his next part of his life. So during my period where I didn't know what to do, I was like, what am I gonna do with my life? What should I stop? Like, I was like, should I stop and do what? And the doing what for us, even if you have a degree, which I did, you're gonna be a private coach or you're gonna coach kids. That's all there is. So he sent my video, unbeknownst to me, to Sweden.
The player?
The player did.
Okay. Okay.
And he was like, Zev, I think you're a good player. And this coach I used to have is taking over a new team in Sweden. And I sent your video over and they liked it, which happens not that often. So I was like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. So they were like, the team in Sweden were like, we'd like you to come over on trial and see how you do. So I flew over there. I played one of the better games of my life. I scored 2 goals in 2 games, which I'm not even an attacking player. So, thank you. And then I signed and I was in Europe at that point. I was playing at a high level.
And that's what you wanted to do.
And that's where I wanted to go. Always. That was always the goal. I wanted to get to there. And the Israeli story.
Wait, so that was when you wanted to give up?
Yeah, right at that period, before he sent my video, I had really no contract offers. I'd pursued all the tryouts.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You were about to give up and then this great thing happened.
And then this great thing happens.
Wow.
And it was like, nope, you're going to go to Sweden.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'd sent my video to 1,000 teams. I emailed. I was like, I'm going to keep going, but like, I don't know what to do. Time is running out. And then Sweden came. And then I went to Sweden and it was either I make the team or not. And I made it.
That's awesome. Talk about like, don't give up before the miracle happens that is amazing. So, okay, well, just tell us about Israel since we're in Israel now.
Yeah, so I was in Sweden. That team was in Sweden.
Okay.
And the Israel situation happened like this. When I was in that, I don't know what to do with my life, I'd gone to Israel.
Oh.
And what happened was...
Like unsoccer related?
Soccer related.
Soccer related, okay.
Basically what had happened was after this one team had disbanded and before I went to Sweden and that guy helped me, I was like, I got to do something. And I, as a Jewish person, I could get my Israeli passport. And the problem with England when I was little was you didn't have a passport. Well, I could get an Israeli passport, which would then theoretically make it easier for me to play in Europe if I got it, because I'm no longer an American. An American passport's like one of the harder ones to get a work visa for any country in the world.
Sure.
Israel's difficult still, but not as.
Yeah.
And so I was like, look, I'll get my Israeli passport. I'll play in Israel, work my way up the ranks. And another American had just done it right before me. And he went to the very top, played at the highest levels that there are. And he and I got to know each other when I was there. And I was like, this is amazing. I'm going to go to Israel. It's going to be amazing. And so I go there and I went during January. January is what's called the transfer window. So you have 1 month to get signed. Once that month is over, no more.
Okay.
It's over. They close the doors. So I had 1 month and I go on a bunch of trials. I go to one really big team and I'm like, I killed it. I was so good. I was like, I made the team. I can't wait to come to training tomorrow. And they were like, the coach got fired.
Oh my God.
Oh. Well, that's a bummer. How about the new coach? Would he like me?
Yeah.
And they're like, no. So I was like, well, that sucks. So what do I do? At this point, I don't have my Israeli passport. I'm applying for it.
Okay.
And then I learned that technically speaking, once you get your Israeli passport, you can get drafted for the rest of your life. Technically.
Really?
It's unlikely. Yes, you can. So, and this is, assuming, if the big bad boys, which as you know in Israel is everybody around them, if they say like they can draft you, like they can do that. And so my mother freaked out. It was like, you cannot get your Israeli passport. I will die before you do that.
Because she doesn't want you to go.
She doesn't want me to get drafted.
Right.
And I was like, look, the chance I get drafted, and I even did a bunch of research.
Well, she didn't want you to like not be away from home. Is that what you mean?
No, she didn't want me to get drafted.
Why?
Because then I could die in war.
Oh my God. You're talking about getting drafted into the army?
To the army, yeah.
Oh my God. I thought you were talking about getting drafted into a soccer team.
Sorry. So if you get your Israeli passport, you can get drafted into the army.
Okay.
And so I had done a bunch of research. I told my mom, look, I don't speak Hebrew. I don't know. I wasn't trained.
Yeah.
They'd make me a paper man before they'd make me a fighter. And she's like, well, if enough people get hurt, they're going to give you a gun. And she was freaking out.
Yeah.
So we were like, and that kind of made me scared. I was like, every night before I went to bed, would I be okay knowing that it could happen? And I wasn't really comfortable with it. So to the point of like, are you willing to do anything? So then here's the good news. Was it while I was in trial in Israel, the time was running out and I was telling them like, I'm going to get my passport. And I was kind of like being like, I'm going to get it eventually, but it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, why don't we sign you as an international player? And then next year, you'll be an Israeli. So no big deal. It only will cost us half of what it normally would because you're going to turn into an Israeli. So I was like, perfect. So I signed with a team in Afula, which is northern Israel.
Okay.
And you talked about like, it was on my Wikipedia, but like wasn't. What happened was I'd signed the contract and my agent calls me and goes, look, you're going to play on Wednesday in this tournament. I'm like, great, super excited. So I go to the bus. I show up at the bus and the manager's like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, you all signed. I took pictures. Like I signed yesterday.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, no. The owner doesn't like you and they fired that coach and you're not getting on the bus.
Oh my God.
And I had a contract, so like they had to pay me.
Yeah.
But like they wouldn't let me get on the bus. And Israel's crazy when it comes to soccer. It's crazy. So then I ended up in Israel kind of for like a month. And then I got kicked out. And then I came home, didn't know what to do. And then I ended up in Sweden.
Wow. That is a story.
That is a story.
So what about your first goal? Your first professional goal?
My first goal I ever scored as a pro?
Yeah, as a pro.
That's a good one. So I had signed for Czech Republic, which was had won the title the year before. So we were in first place. We were winning, and that again, this was after being told no 1,010 times. And this coach was like, "I like you. I want you involved. I want you to play." So I came off the bench against Portland Timbers, which is an MLS team.
Yeah, I know.
And good, great. For anyone else that doesn't know, they're MLS, okay? And it was against their like second team. And to be honest, I don't remember it at all anymore because I've watched it. I had to watch it back, obviously, because it was cool. So I only have the image of like me on video.
Yeah.
And I lost the image in my head of the moment.
The moment.
So I'm almost like in the future, if I score, like I don't want to watch it because you'll keep it in your brain better, I think.
But you know how you felt,
I don't score that many goals. I do remember how I felt.
How did you feel?
How did I feel? Really good, obviously, because particularly we were winning 2-0. So and there was like, ooh, maybe they'll score and the comeback is on. And when I scored, game was over. It's like we won and it was all because of Zev. That's like the vibe it was.
That's what happened?
That's what happened.
That's amazing.
That's what happened. I scored and 3-0. They're like, there's only 15 minutes left. Game is over. Thanks to Zev.
Yeah.
And it was a hell of a goal if you watch it back. I tapped it in from 5 yards away. But it was a great moment. And with that particular team, I was the rookie of the year and people and the fans really, hopefully I'm doing a good job on camera. I really loved kind of being like a personality.
Yeah.
And I got invited to all these events and I really enjoyed it. And I was kind of famous. And it was the accumulation of all those things together. And then I scored. Yeah. And then, 10,000 people there. So I remember that. Well, I remember staying afterwards and signing autographs for hours.
Well, that's so
awesome. I have a big head, so I loved every second. And it was amazing. I just had a great time. And my father was there, which was really cool. And then I have the best video of my entire life. It's so great. Maybe I'll give it to you so you can pull it up. But my brother's at college watching the game. And he goes, "Oh my gosh, Zev's going to get laid tonight.
Oh my God.
What a great goal. But his girlfriend's not there. But what a great goal." And it was like the fact that he got to see it. And he was, because ultimately as you go through this, and this is part of the reason I've come back home, is unless you share it with people, it's like, who cares? So to be able to, for them, everyone to have seen it and been a part of it. And it was definitely the accumulation of all those no's.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
And then it was that goal. And then I got benched after that. No, I'm just kidding. Then I played a lot more, and then later I got traded.
Yeah, so. That's awesome. I think I was gonna ask if that moment when you shot your first goal, made your first goal, scored your first goal. When you scored your first goal, did it feel like the accumulation of all the hard work that you've ever done?
Yeah, it definitely did. It really was like
your whole life.
Yeah,
really.
Your whole life, and that was the goal, and that was it, and then. I was 21, so I was like, great, I did it. Now, how come Chelsea or Manchester United haven't, signed me? What the heck? I was like, I just scored my first pro goal. I should be in England now. And there was a lot of work to be done, obviously. But, it was the accumulation of all of the no's, for sure.
That was me when I passed the bar.
Oh, I bet. I can only imagine.
It was I don't know. I only knew I wanted to be an attorney in college. So, for me, it was the accumulation of probably 7 years, 4 years in college, and then I worked a little, and then so maybe more than 7, 8 or 9 years. And I was and studying for the bar was hell. It was the worst time of my life. And then I remember that taking the bar was even worse than studying for it was a mental challenge. Yeah. It was very hard. It was very taxing. But I remember both of my parents were here. My dad was on this side, my mom was on this side, and the score came early. Like, your test score came early, and I was just like...
In the mail?
No, on the computer.
On the computer.
Yeah, and...
Like, to open it? Like, was it not... Like, you'd have to click, like, open?
I had to log into the portal.
Yeah. So that must have been... And you knew... Sometimes you would log in for other stuff. So this was, like... Only to get the score.
Yeah.
Oh, so it must have been so nerve-wracking.
I was like looking at it. I just had it open like 5 minutes early just to just be ready. We were all just sitting there like checking our phones. Like, I was texting my best friend Erica because she was getting her score too. And then it said pass like 2 minutes early, and we freaked out. Like, but it was like, I felt that, you know what I mean? Like, all that hard work paid off in that one moment. And then it was like a great moment, but then it like only got harder also.
I was just about to say, then after that that's when you got all the no's.
So hard, yes.
That's when you got all the no's.
Well, actually, when I passed the bar was when I got yeses
for
the first time.
Oh, okay.
I guess everyone was waiting for me to pass the bar, which is cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Okay, wow. First goal is very exciting. What about did you know you wanted to own your own club, or was that just something that happened? Like, did you grow up being like, I'm going to own my own soccer club one day?
Definitely not. This is out of the left field. Basically, what happened, and it's very recent, like yesterday, we actually cut like 5 players. It's like really interesting how it's happening. So basically...
What does cut players mean? Like?
Cut means I told them no.
Oh, okay.
It's full circle.
Right. There you go.
Is basically, in this particular instance... You know, I'm focusing on my own career, everything. I'm like, that's what I'm doing. And last year I played for a team called Richmond, and we won the league. And it was like, wow, amazing. And I was away from home, and they may see this, in which case I had an amazing time. And technically there could be an opportunity to go back there, and that may happen, undecided. But when I was away, I was like, wow, like I really enjoy being near home. Home's important to me.
Yeah. And
I was like, since home is so important to me, how do I continue to play pro soccer but nearby? And my brother played for this semi-pro team, basically, and it had disbanded a year ago. And they came to us, my brother and I, and they're like, look, if you guys are willing to put some money into this and run it and restart it, it's yours. And first of all, to own a semi-pro team is crazy. Like, it's not an easy task. Like, there's so much paperwork, but everything was set for us. Like, the fields were ready, the paperwork was done. Somebody just had to do the work, like get the fields, paper. But it was for the taking. And initially, we both said no. Like, thanks so much, that's fun. We just want to play soccer. Like, leave us alone. Then Ari and I, my brother, were like thinking about it, and we're like, look, and this kind of is hilarious. It goes back to this. I go, we've been told no a lot. We'll never have to be told no again if we buy this team. It'll be ours. So we're like, that's pretty nice. Yeah. Because we've had a lot of no's in our life, and like, nobody's going to be telling me no anymore. Yeah. So I was like, that's pretty cool. And then for me, the accumulation of like, I really wanted to play soccer at the highest level I can. Play with my brother, which we've never played together before because just timing was always off.
So he's a soccer player too?
He's a soccer player too.
Very cool.
He actually played, he's been paid to play before as a pro, and he played college soccer. And my youngest brother also plays soccer. So like soccer family. And Ari and I were like, look, we really want to be a part of this. We want to do this together maybe. And then of course, throughout the years, I'm sure you have this too. Every time I was told no, I was like, I would have done it this way. I would have done it this way. I can't wait to do it this way. I wish I could do it this way. And so over the years, you just accumulate all of that, and you like some people do. And that was my personality. And traditionally speaking, I was always kind of the captain or the leader of the team. And sometimes that goes in your favor. Sometimes it doesn't. And you have to learn early, like you have to be careful because you don't want to step on the coach's toes. But each player, and you know it in your life too, you'd be like, oh, that person's definitely going to be a judge one day, or that person's definitely going to stay a lawyer. You just know their personality. So my personality was, one day Zev's going to coach. That was pretty obvious early on. And I was like, yeah. And like, how am I going to do that? What can I do? And so the whole reason I started helping kids play college soccer was so I could be a college coach one day. That was the goal. Help the kids. I'll prove to the coaches I'm capable of being a recruiter. And I don't want to stop playing yet. So I'll start helping kids in the afternoons, play in the mornings. And then when I decide to, I'll be a college coach. And then my business took off of like helping kids. I really enjoyed it. And I was like, wow, this is really fun. I really just love helping kids play college. Do I want to coach in college? I don't really know. I wasn't unsure. And unfortunately, the financial part of coaching college is not good. And I was like, what do I do? But I still do wanted to coach. I wanted to coach. So then this team came about, and all of us dream to some degree of, particularly coaches, of having what's called an academy, where it's like you're in charge, and not only is your team in your power, but the youth teams that starting at 6 years old are like under your direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I have something I wish it did happen for me when I was 14. That coach took me as a 14-year-old and let me play with 18-year-olds. And he was like, you can play with the older boys. And it changed my life. So I'm really excited about this opportunity where I'll hopefully be able to go, hey, these are a group of players, and some of them will be paid. I'll be paid. My brother will be paid. We're working on that part. We don't know yet. Maybe not. And from that perspective, we may be pros, but the whole team won't be paid. And the idea also, though, will be, oh my gosh, I'll be the boss. Like, if I see a kid who's 16 that nobody believes in, I can pull him up, and it'll be in my control. And traditionally speaking, my brother and I the way we see the game is that player that's not picked.
Yeah.
We get to pick that because we were always that.
Yeah.
Short, weird, different. And now our eyes are looking for that. Like almost bummer for the players that are so good since they were 12. We're like, we don't want you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, if they're good, they're good. But now we're looking for the players that wouldn't get picked. That's who we want.
That's awesome.
So that feels really good, yeah.
That's really cool. I think your story is such a great example of like persevering even when you're faced with challenge after challenge after challenge, and it's like you had this passion that drove you is what it sounds like. And it's cool to have that feeling like when you're really passionate about something. And I think most of the listeners have a passion for something, whether it's like I don't know the analytics actually, but I know most of the listeners do have a passion for something that they're like trying to do. And so to hear your story, it inspires me, especially as someone who has a passion for protecting the environment and wanting to be in this field and all the challenges that have come along with it. But it's cool to like see that you've made it, and like the twists and the turns that you've pivoted and you've adapted and you've like created things out of nothing. And that's just like, that's cool. That's really awesome.
Thank you. It was all to be on this podcast.
Yeah.
That's why I did all the notes.
All for this
all
very
the notes
day.
for this moment. So thank you for saying no.
That's awesome. I think this is a good place for us to stop. You nailed everything, all the questions I had.
Great.
But before we end,
we didn't even open the pickles.
Do you want to open the pickles? I couldn't open
Save those, maybe. It's a lot of. I'm only gonna have a bite of one. Feels like a waste of the jar.
We'll do it off camera.
Yeah.
But where can people find you? Like, what do you have going on?
This was the part I was waiting for the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. On Instagram, and she'll tag me, I'm sure, at Zev Football is my professional soccer page. And then on TikTok, it is College Soccer Guy. And DM me. I know I really love helping people. If you are a fan of hers, then you're a fan of mine, or I'm a fan of yours, I should say. And so if you have a question and you're like, I would really, you need a little motivation or whatever, send me a message. I actually do free phone calls for like all people that would like help. So you could schedule a call potentially.
For soccer?
In your case, your audience may not be soccer people. So if you put in I have like a questionnaire, and if they put in my form, like I saw you on the Kenya podcast or the Thank you for saying no podcast.
Oh, nice.
Then I'll do a call with you.
Very cool. That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here. This was great.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Follow and subscribe to the Thank You for Saying No podcast, and you'll get every episode as soon as it's released.